Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, I can say now. There are only gentlemen in to start with, so I'm getting a bit worried, although I get along quite well with gentlemen. Okay, my story is very powerful, very brief. I'm not going to bore you. It was the biggest thing that ever happened in my life. I was a fit, healthy 26-year-old, 27-year-old. Just come back from the Far East. I was in the entertainment business with my three sisters, did a vocal group, and met my husband in Singapore, and then toured with him for 6 or 7 years and came back to buy property in Sicily. He was Sicilian. I had to be very nice to him, of course, for the reasons you can imagine. Okay, so we started this restaurant absolutely against my wishes. Neither of us could boil an egg. But the family said lots of money in it, so in we went. Had 2 boys. I went home to have the 2 boys, my 2 sons, and we started this restaurant, which was hugely popular. So popular that I used to stand behind the bar at the end of the day, in the evening, and just pray that no one else would come in. It was that bad. And we're working in 40 centigrade. 43 centigrade. Yeah, you couldn't get away from it even at night. It was just ghastly. So it wasn't very good. So anyway, we worked and worked and worked and worked. And what we did, my husband and I used to, we weren't cooks or anything like that. We entertained around the tables, and it was hugely successful. But this obviously took its toll. And after about a year, I became quite ill. I didn't know what. I'd been blessed with health all my life, and I thought. I just very slowly started getting these awful symptoms. I presume it was like a chronic fatigue. I don't know what chronic fatigue is, but I presume it was, because my arms felt like lead, like you got up in the morning and everything felt like lead, rather like you got flu all the time. And you know, in the heat, I was going round, and then we went on till 2 in the morning with the restaurant. The boys had to go to school at like 7:30 in the morning because of the heat. They had to go early to school, 7:30 till sort of 11, 12, and I was virtually killing myself. So every year I had to go back to my dearest father in Kent and have respite because I wasn't doing very well. So to cut it all short, I kept on doing that for 8 or 9 years until, no, it wasn't that long, it was 6, no, it's about 6 years. 6 years, just over 6 years, kept going back. And every time I set foot on English soil, I had no more symptoms. I was back to normal. I'd lost a lot of weight, you know, being in the heat and everything. But I just thought, this is because of the heat. I'm not good in the heat. We were rushing around on tablecloths and this and bookings, and we were just everywhere. And my husband had pain. I used to sit down behind the bar and I'd feed him anti-acid for his stomach. He was just a nervous wreck. We were both nervous wrecks. So anyway, every time I went home, every year, and it got worse and worse. I stayed 2 weeks the first time, 3 weeks, then it got to a month, then I stayed a month and a half, and then 2 months, until it got so bad one summer, and my mother-in-law was in, and she used to come once a week for a pizza, and she was sitting behind, looking after the children who were in bed, and I just went into her and I said, I can't stand any more of this. You have to forgive me if I break cancer, I probably will. And I just went into her and I said, I won't be here to be a mother if I carry on. So, and she was so lovely, she said, I understand. And anyway, the very next day I just said to Johnny, my husband, I just said, I have to go. I have to go because I won't be here any longer. So there was no time to book flights because I felt so bad that, in fact, we didn't even have any cash in the house to leave. I couldn't even leave because we hadn't. Every bit of money we made, we had to get another year of wine and another year of flipping pasta, or another year of tomatoes and another year of onions, all stored in the barns anyway. So I went over to a friend, very wealthy friend, opposite, who ran a lemon farm, Maria Grazzi, beautiful girl. And I said, for God's sake, give me the train fare for me and my children. I've got to go now. I don't care what the time train is, I'll just go. She gave me the money, and she said, you're in no state to go. She knew I was very ill. And I said, I can't help you, I'll just go. So she took us and Jane was running a restaurant, he couldn't, and she took us to the station, and she just said, you can't go like this. I said, I've got to, because I'm not going to be here. I was in agony by then. I was holding on, I couldn't stand up. The pain everywhere was just dreadful. So I remember getting on the train, and Simon, the little one, said to me, are we nearly there? Are we nearly in England? And I just said, I think so, darling, I think so. Anyway, the time I got to Rome, I was practically not in this world. And again, this beautiful Maria Grazia, who lived opposite, in a sort of castle, actually, a beautiful place opposite us, with all acres of lemons. She was there on holiday, visiting her mother, and her husband, who was a GP, was in Rome. And lo and behold, he was on the station to meet me, and cut it all short. He took me home, he gave me sedatives for a week, I don't know what happened, took the boys out in Rome, a lovely time, and he also had to look at for my passport. My passport had run out in Bangkok like 10 years ago. He did all that, and anyway, he got me on the train after a week, and off I went home. And I went home to my dad, and there was no time to even call him, and there was no one home, so I didn't care. I was home in England, and already I could feel things lifting again. It was fresh, and I put it down to climate again. I didn't know where else to go. It was climate. For me, it was all climate, and work and exhaustion. So there was no one home, I didn't care. I said to the boys, we had no luggage, nothing, just two dirty t-shirts and a pair of shorts. And I just said, I know Grandad makes strawberries and there'll be straw bales in the greenhouse. So we got into the greenhouse, and we were just making a bed, really, of straw. So he's still sleeping. And Daddy never went away, but he did go to his sisters. Every now and again he went to his sisters. And he had some sort of premonition. It was a bank holiday, I had no idea what day it was or what month it was. And he came through the drive in his little Beetle, and that's the end of that. Anyway, I recovered completely, as I did normally when I came home to England. And again, I put it down totally to heat. Okay, I tried to get my husband over to live. That's another story completely. Hated England and all the rest. That's another story. So for just over 9 years, I lived merrily, working hard, opened my own playgroup, 32 children, absolutely loved it. Really started it off to accommodate mine, so that I was there with them, because my father was sort of into his 80s. And had wonderful, wonderful years. He cooked and gave us so much TLC, and it was just wonderful. Not a pain, not a symptom, nothing. I put on 2 stone within very few weeks, and no symptoms. And I never thought about it again. Never thought about it again. Merrily on my way. Couldn't go back there, of course. I couldn't even think about going to Sicily, because the very thought of the heat doing that to me again, no. So 9.5 years ago passed, or roughly, and then a shattering blow. My dad died, and it was shattering, very shattering, because he'd been there for them and, helped raise them and everything. And some symptoms came back, not the same symptoms. This time it was a chronic pain across the back, across the lumbar region. And I couldn't understand. I put it down to the car and acceleration. I had this flipping Mini that I had to fold myself into. And it was one of those. I thought that was cool, but it wasn't cool at all. I had to put my legs around it. And so I thought, oh, well, that's nothing. That's just the car. And then it got worse. It went up to the mid-back. And then it went up to the shoulders. And I suppose a fibromyalgia, we've all heard of that. That's a horrible one. Mostly women get it. 99% of women get it. It's most of the problems. And the pain was getting excruciating. Anyway, time went past and it got worse and worse and worse. Now, I went for all these tests. I went for tests for everything, which I did in Sicily, by the way. One of the other things I had, which I forgot to mention, apart from the chronic fatigue, was terrible heart palpitations. Terrible heart palpitations. And I wrote to Tony Blair years later, Remind me of Tony Blair at the end of this talk. And I didn't do any good. But anyway, I thought my heart was stopping. It used to happen at night, and I was still, and my heart just jumped straight out of my body. It was terrifying. I thought I was out, I was gone. And anyway, it got worse and worse, the pain, and I went everywhere. I spent near on £5,000 trying to get my back grown. I went to every chiropractor's, osteopath, name, and did alternative everything, this, that, and the other, nothing. And the pain was getting slowly so bad. And I got tennis elbow, carpal tunnel. In the end, I couldn't actually pick up. It all came very slowly. It can come on very fast. With this doctor says in the book, you can have these seizures that happen very fast, but with mine, it came on very slowly. It couldn't do either. And spent all this money to no avail. And then I had an MRI scan, just to eliminate everything, which you have to do in the book. It's just as you must have an MRI scan to eliminate tumours, to eliminate cancer, of course, which incidentally, cancer is in the voice. It's the immune system crashing, so that's the cause of cancer. Anyway. Well, that's another story. So she got me in this consultant, I'll never forget her tiny little thing, and she got me in this little room at the hospital, and she said, sit down, and she said, your MRI scans arrived. She said, and I'd like to just read it to you. So I sat there, in this awful little room, and she said, it's very bad. She said, it's very grave. In fact, she said, it won't be long before you're in a wheelchair. That's just, just like saying, oh, by the way, you've got cancer. Oh, well, this is what you take that pill, that pill, the other pill, and you'll be fine. So she went all through. She said, you're going to have to take, she said, osteoporosis is imminent. She said, you're going to be like that soon. And by the way, I did one of those. Later on, I went back to it. And I did much higher than that, but I'm going to get the beans. So I said, she said, you're going to have to take very strong pills because you've got trapped nerve, you've got slipped disc, you've got narrowing of this, narrowing of that, and she went on and on and on and on. And she said, you must take these drugs, otherwise you will not be walking. And I had tendonitis of the heel, I couldn't walk at all, I just couldn't walk. So I just sat there staunchly, and I said, well, I don't take pills, I've never taken pills, I don't believe in pills, I think they make you feel really ill, and I believe that there are alternative ways of getting well, very strongly I believe that. So she was adamant that I had to take these, and I said, well, thank you very much, but thank you, but no thank you, and I walked out. But I did walk out with a massive black cloud over my head. It was so bad, I remember going back to my flat and thinking, oh my God, what's next? What's next? What am I going to do for the rest of my life? What? I knew I had all this energy in me. I still felt that because inside me I was well, but it's my body that was failing, and I just couldn't understand it. What was it? And they put it down to arthritis and this and that and the other. It was always arthritis because they actually don't know. That's the terrible, ghastly part, is it? The medics don't know, so it's arthritis. Or an old injury. One of those, it's 1,000 things they use because they don't know. It's not their fault, it's just don't know. So I thought, oh my God, what next? I never gave in. I had carers by this time. Carers to do everything. Carers to come in and cut the carrots. Carers to... My dignity had gone down the pan, I had to wash me. Still had a lot of laughter because I wouldn't be beaten in any way. But I used to I lay on my bed for 2 years in total, I thought, what am I going to do? I was 60 then, it's 11 years ago, and I just thought, what am I going to do? I can't lie here. I know, somehow I knew that there was nothing wrong with me, if you know what I mean, even though the pain was so bad. And he says in the book that the pain that I will describe a little bit later is so severe, it's worse than cancer, it's worse than anything. There is no pain like it. And when I read out the cure at the end, you will realise why. Okay, so I went home and I got in my bed. I had a little black and white television in my bedroom, and my friends used to come and sit in the bedroom with me. And I despaired, but I never gave up. I believe God helps those who help themselves. And I believe if you don't give in, you just don't give in. And I forced myself every day to get out of that flat. First floor, going downstairs was almost like a nightmare. To get off the bed took me about an hour to psych myself up with the pain. And I thought, come on, Juliet, you get out there, and the wind and the rain, we're right on the seafront there, and I thought, oh, my soul out, only me. And I got onto the seafront somehow, and to get out of my building alone, I had to put a belt around my waist and hook it through fire doors. They're all a bit heavy, aren't they? And I had to go backwards like this, and the pain was so excruciating that, and I said, no, go on, you just get on going. And I used to get onto the seafront, and in a gale, and I used to look at ships, and I knew my son was working on a cruise line out there, and they come into Dover, and I just thought, gosh, if he could see his mum now, who he knows was so wild and mad, and I couldn't move. And I used to, the pain, I didn't know anything about this book then, but I knew that I had to stop thinking about the pain. I knew I had to somehow get through, and I used to think of my eldest son, Giorgio, used to tell me a dirty joke, and they were, ah! I couldn't hear the dirty jokes. I said, no, I don't want to hear them, but I had to think of those to stop thinking about this pain. And then I used to somehow get through this walk and come back. And I did this daily. And then I collapsed in just a total heap because I really could not walk. I was holding on like this. It was just awful. Anyway, my son, Simon, used to come home from his cruise liners. I used to go run around playing piano, and he used to come back occasionally on leave before he got another ship or the same ship. And he'd heard that his mother had collapsed into a heap. I mean, he knew his mother. I'd broken in wild horses, I'd jumped from mountains and been blessed, as I said, with beautiful health till then. And he just couldn't believe what he was seeing with carers coming in, and it was just a nightmare, really. And having been told that I was going to be crippled and I was going to be in a wheelchair. And he came in, and he's a very gentle soul, 6'2" plus, and he came in with this book, and he threw it on my lap. I'll never forget it. On the bed, it must have been on the bed in the lounge, and he threw it onto my lap, and he said, Mum, he said, if you don't take this book on board, I rest my case. In other words, and he got quite a little bit churchy, and I thought, I don't even know who my son is now, what the ship's done to him, I don't know. But anyway, I took this little paper back in my hand, and I thought, what on earth is this going to do for me? When I've been through every test and spent everything I had no money left. And I was bleeding internally because I knew I had to get back on my feet somehow. You know, I believe we all have something to do on earth, and what was going to be wasted lying there like a sort of... So I started looking, oh yeah, you know, this is really going to work. Anyway, I started reading, and I read 10 pages of the book, and on every page, I just thought, oh my God, that's me, oh my God, that's me, oh my God, that's me, oh my God, that's me. And when I got to, just before the 10th page, it said, if you have all these symptoms, there is nothing wrong with you. And I remember at that point just thinking, oh my God, I knew there was nothing wrong with me. And I think the tears just fell down my face. I was just thinking, there is nothing wrong with me. And I remember getting on the phone and ringing my whole family. I just screamed, there's nothing wrong with me, there's nothing wrong with me. I just read a book, I read this story, there's nothing wrong with me. And I remember Beth from my little niece, my mother was in the kitchen trying to flipping make soup or something, and she's going, she can do a cartwheel, she can jump, she's better, she's this, she's that. I haven't done a cartwheel, but anyway, I said I will be doing that. And anyway, I wrote and rang all my friends, and I just said, there's nothing wrong with me, I just read a book. So anyway, Simon said, right, my son is Simon, and he said, I want you to read this book about 6 or 7 times. Finish it, and reread it, and take it in on board. And he said, at the end, and he also told me that this, I said, where did you get it? And he said there was a guy on board ship who was currently with this book reading, and he was a drummer, and he had to leave the drumming profession because he was, like me, crippled, he read the book, got better. Okay. So, as he left that day, he left the house and left me with it, and he came back and he said, in 10 days I want you to walk, you'll be walking in 10 days. And I went, right, okay, the pain had already lifted. It was only almost a few hours, it was quite phenomenal. so phenomenal that that's all I've got to do for the rest of my life. There is nothing else in my life I can do, is to try and get, even if it's one person out of pain, and I've got many people out of pain in many years. And so someone said, you're walking on the 10th day. Anyway, I was cushy in my little flat. I was out of pain. I mean, almost out of pain. And I was safe within my little flat. I was going around, I was feeling so good, and I thought, I don't care if I don't go out for the rest of my life, I'm out of pain. You know, so I almost didn't dare, move! There was a bell then, don't know where that came from. And so I was fine within my own little flat, but he said, you've got to go out at the end of the week, 10 days. Read it, be secure. And if you're not frightened, you must not be frightened, in other words. If you're not ready, he said, don't go. But I wanted to be ready, even though I was terrified. So I did all the reading, and it all made such sense. And I was terribly excited because I was terrified at the same time. Then on the 10th day, he was about to go back to sea. He came through with these very nice shoes that he'd found in the bottom of the cupboard, which was so old, and they were beautiful leather shoes from the Kent show, terribly expensive, beautiful shoes. I only bought one pair of those, that was the last pair ever, but they lasted, buy once, buy well. And I said, darling, I can't walk in those. They're buried, you know, I've got to get rid of them. He said, why can't you wear them? I said, because they've got no cushy, you know, I was used to trainers. I had one pair of trainers that had so much cushy on the bottom, you know, all this lovely sports things. I said, I can't walk in those. He said, but there's nothing wrong with you. And I said, well, I know, but no, you wouldn't have it. He hid all my other shoes, gave me these things. And they were hard as rock on the bottom. They were so hard, I wish I'd brought them. Anyway, I chose a time of day. I think it was the next day I went. And I chose a time of day when there was no one around, because there were certain things I had to do on the walk and say and go through the cure that they told me to do in the book. But I was terrified, because I didn't want that pain to come back. And I was going, please God, that pain never comes back. And I thought, if I start out there, I'm going to get them all again. And I was all human, and I got all, you know, mushy. But my son was having anything, so I said, get out there. And so off I went. And I remember the hill now. I remember this hill. It was a lovely road with trees either side and a big wide verge where I used to gallop up with my horsey. And the terror was so strong that the pain returned. At least I can only remember the foot thing. I was obsessed with the foot thing because I'd spent so much money on my feet, on my tendonitis. I'd had things made for my shoes, and I was allowed to walk like 4 steps, 5 steps, and then take them out, all this. And I was terrified. So I put into action, into my head, what I had to do and what I had to say, and all the things that the book had taught me, and I started. I was in agony. Agony! Agony! Like, I can't tell you the agony, there is no agony, I'll tell you later what it is. Anyway, I started walking, and I put all the motion into what I'd learned, and I said, go on, get on! And I marched on up this hill. By the time I got halfway up the hill, I'd never had another pain in my life, ever. It tries to return because there's something going on, which I'll tell you later. And that was the end of that. And I went into my consultant, who was making these little cushy things for me, so I could walk 4 steps and, you know, and then take the shoes off. You know, that's going to be a lovely walk, isn't it? You know, better off to have a wheelchair. But, so I went into her, and weeks I went in a taxi or with a friend to make these molds. It was all done in wax, and it was all, and she'd made these things, and it was the last day of fitting to put these things on. So in I went. Of course, I was completely aware of it. So I went in, and I did a massive one, but so high, and I'd been going in like this, you know, holding on to everything. The taxi was outside, and she went, and I'll never forget her, again, a little consultant. They're all very little, anyway. And she just went, oh my God, she was very nice. Oh my God, she said, what's happened? And I said, I read a book. And she didn't say one more word. And she said, she got a pen, and she wrote down the name of the book. And she came out, which I bought them again, these things to go in my shoes, and she said, what do I do with these? What do I do with them? They probably cost the NHS. I don't know. probably 500 quid. I think they were made, really well made. 300 quid, I don't know what. Anyway, I just let's have them. I'll just look at them and think, I don't need you. So that was that. And then there was only one thing I could do in my life, and that's just to tell people about this amazing doctor. I did fly over to see him, my carbon footprint, sorry God, my carbon footprint all the way over to shake hands with him, because I was going to, you know, I wanted to adopt him forever and ever. He's only that high, again, small. How tall is he? Anyway, went all the way over, and just to shake his hand really, 10 days in New York, and I went up and down his street, singing under my breath, I haven't walked down the street before, and they were going to arrest me out there because I was perfectly outside his institute, Rusk Institute for something medicine, can't remember what it was. Anyway, saw him, and he said to me, you know, he said, you know, you have all this enthusiasm and I'm really grateful for that. He said, but if you really want to help me, get me a UK doctor to train with me. He's knocking on now, and he's in his 90s now, just retired. And he said, get me a UK doctor to come train with me before I retire. So I did. Not only did I do it, I did it with aplomb and panache. I went and got one from Harley Street. Oh yeah! I didn't go around the corner to flipping East Grinstead or flipping wherever you... These people live, Brighton, I don't know. No, I got it in Harley Street. And he was chuffed to death when I told him I got him Harley Street, yeah, yeah. Went out of context for a minute. And yes, I got him. And there's another lady that I will tell you about probably at the end. She does, she was a physiotherapist, but she also got well through him. And she is the absolute driving force for this Dr. Sarno, his name is. And she is the most extraordinary woman, and she is now training consultants, top consultants and different doctors in London, and she has a clinic in New York for pain relief, whereas she gets them in and then she tells them about him, about Dr. Sarno. And I always have to look this up, what it is. It's, this video is, her name is Georgie Oldfield, and she's the most beautiful, dedicated young woman. I think she's only in her 40s, and she's incredible woman, and she's put so much energy into this, because she as well got cured. And I mean, when you're in pain and then you're taken out of pain, what else is there to do but tell people about it?
When you know about this, you can't go back and practice.
You can't go back.
Oh.
No, you can't go back. Well, I see people having their hips changed, having their navels changed, I was going to say, having their kneecaps changed, having their knees and something done in their shoulders. And I know that directly have it done, the pain will go somewhere else. But they haven't arrived at this stuff. Anyway, SIRPA, it's called Stress Illness Recovery Practitioners Association. So she is, if you want to go further, if you buy a book, or if you don't buy a book, and
she's remember in the UK taking this work further.
Yeah, you know about it. Yeah, she's quite the most extraordinary woman. So if you know anyone who has problems and they want the book, or they want to know straight from Georgie, she is an exceptional, beautiful woman with a heart, and she's just out there. She doesn't even want to make money, she wants to just tell the world. I mean, all I want to do is get on top of the building and say, there's nothing wrong with it. I've got all my friends at 22, they're all going past me with sticks like this, and I know there's nothing wrong with them. I know that, because I've studied it for so long now. But I can't get it through.
Sorry, can I ask a question? Or is it,
yes,
or is you going to do questions?
No, you can.
I wanted to ask, when you had the little lady who'd done the MRI scan,
yes,
what did she find? She said all these things that were wrong. Did she actually find things on the MRI?
Well, she found everything I told you. She found everything. She found slit discs or whatever she found. Narrowing. You get the narrowing of the whatever they are in the vertebrae, and they say that that's the beginning of osteoporosis or whatever it is. Osteoporosis most definitely coming on. Just stuff. Nose. I don't know what she found. Everything. Yeah. But as you will learn if you buy a book, or even if you don't, you'll learn later on that all we have all that stuff on our back from 14, 15 years old. It's not causing the pain, it's just wear and tear. Our backs are constantly working. Our backs are so strong that we can lift pianos if we want to. We will need a bit of help. You know, we're taught not to lift this. Oh, be careful, bend from the knees, do. No, if it's not too heavy, you can lift it. But we think, I can't go into it because it's too long to cure. I will read out what's happening, but, and it's sort of like little bits out of the book. I'll read it out, and that's the easiest way because it's too long to explain what's going on. But, yes, there's nothing wrong with any of us. Actually, nothing.
With any of us? Yeah, I mean, there might be some.
When I say that, there's cancer, we know that, but these things, these emotional things I'm about to announce now, what's happening, are the cause of the crash of the immune system, and then cancer comes in.
If you've got a symptom or a pain, it's either through two causes. One cause is a physical organ problem, and organs can be bones and muscles and all tissue. Or it can be of a neurological origin, and this is of a neurological origin. The nerves literally go to every tissue in the body, and it's not the cause of the problem is not necessarily at the site of the pain.
No.
If it's a neurological problem, you've got to perhaps sometimes go further upstream, and that includes what's going on in the mind. The automatic, unconscious reactions of the mind.
Right.
It's massive, but the book is very simple, terribly simple, and it's laid out. He's written many books, but this is the simple one. I get them on net. I don't make 1 penny. It's £4.50, and I think it's the best book in the world, because to get yourself out of pain is, to me, there is nothing like it on earth. I mean, you don't want to live with pain, do you? So this is what's happening in the brain. That's Georgie Oldfield. You can remember that. Serpa.
Yeah, there's little leaflets there.
There's little leaflets you can take away. But she is, because Dr Sarno is in New York and now he's retired. But there are 4 doctors, I believe, 3 or 4 doctors now who are following in his footsteps. And not only doctors, there's all sorts of physiotherapists, there's chiropractors also doing the same thing. And it's really taking hold now. So it's very exciting news. So there you are. Now I'm going to get to very briefly what is going on. These are just headings taken out of one of Dr Sarno's books, and its heading is Important Points of Tension Myoneural. Now, myo is muscle, and neuro is the nerves, going all over the place, all over our bodies, nerves are going. Again, important points of tension myoneural syndrome. The first one is repressed emotions cause changes in the nervous system, causing oxygen deprivation to certain muscles. This is the cause of the pain. Psychological, not physical factors are responsible for pain. It is folly to neglect the emotional component of human illness. That's a big one. What emotions could be so terrible as to induce the brain to subject someone to severe physical, frightening neurological symptoms? Conflicts raging in the unconscious result in the development of emotions that cannot be tolerated, and therefore must be repressed. The mind chooses to mask the emotional turmoil with physical pain. Unconscious emotional phenomena necessitates physical symptoms. Pain is an emotional induced process. It is about how the brain manifests pain in the body because it doesn't want to deal with emotional issues. Now, I'll just follow it off with one tiny or couple of tiny examples. Now, child abuse is the worst one you can get. It all starts, everything in this book starts with your childhood. Now, it can be, you can be an oversensitive child, that your mother or your father says, get into your room, do your homework. You could be oversensitive, your own, and this child is just reacting in some terrible way. That is something that could happen. It could be someone at school, it could be bullying, it could be anything. And I call them the lasagna layers of life that build up and up and up and up and up. And the worst case is child abuse. There is nothing worse than that. And a child's never going to talk about that, ever. So where is it? Where's it gone? Conscious mind is that big. It's about as big as my fingernail there. That's looking after us in the data. But the conscious mind has got everything stored like a computer. Your computer's got nothing compared with your brain. Your brain has everything stored, and it's never going to go away. It's pink, like the day it happened. Child abuse is such a huge one. It's never going to be talked about. It's not social. You can't socialise with it. You can't tell anybody about it. So it's festering. And he explains it in the book like a million murderers festering up there through our life's experience. It could be anything. You could have been nearly raped. You could have been this. You could have been that. And I mean, the experiences I've been through are just horrendous. We couldn't even go into it. Never been hurt or anything like that. Not child abuse, but. Yeah, on my travels, yeah, not such nice things. But this is all trapped there. And all murderers want to do when they're in jail. What do murderers want to do when they're in jail? What's the first thing they want to do, or any person in jail? What do they want to do?
Escape.
Escape. So they escape. They want to escape, and all they want to do is escape. They're all there. You want to bring it out. It needs, and he gives wonderful examples in a book about this girl called Helen who's raped so badly, and when she gets down, just screams. And it's so powerful. This book, this little tiny book, is just the most powerful book on earth. And I can't say any more than that. But the top of my list, do you know what was the top of my list for psychological damage? Was a little mouse. I lived in a farmhouse in Buckinghamshire, beautiful silver spoon upbringing, and a little mouse. They were mice. We had traps in the house, and my mother had antiques and wonderful, beautiful. We had ponies. We had a wonderful silver spoon upbringing, very loving, very beautiful. But there was a mouse once in my boots. I was going hunting. I know I shouldn't have been hunting, but I was going. And there was a mouse, and it came straight up my leg. Never forgot it, never. I was about 7. And then one day my dad came down, very gentle man, he came down to breakfast, he never swore, and he got to the kitchen table and he said, "Bugger!" Something like that. I mean, we all looked round. He said, "I'm sure I had a mouse over my face in the night." That was it. I never, ever forgot it. All my life. From then on, I went under the covers and never came out until daylight because in case a mouse came over my face. And until I got married in Singapore, I thought my husband was going to save me from the mouse, so I took the covers off. That was at the top of my list. And that is the stupid little things that can be stored up there. And this terror, we've all got them, spiders, whatever. So that's it, really. I would like to finish by saying, I hope I'm going to be able to. I'd like to do this without reading, but it's so important that I'm going to read it through. I'd like to finish on these few words, and I'd like to ask the medical profession to take a harder look at alternative medicine. Because but for alternative medicine, I would be completely disabled and in a chair for life. There are no other words to say than that. I'm out of pain. Instead of being in that wheelchair, I can now, I'm on my rollerblades with the hoodies in the yard, down the slopes, up the other side. How old are you, they say. I said, you don't ask a lady how old she is. And they told me I'd never walk again. Remember that. Remember that. Top consultant in Canterbury Hospital. I don't care if she's listening. She told me I would never walk again, or very, I would have difficulty. So, I'm just saying, change is necessary. Change is always necessary. Change is progress. We have to go forward. You can't not change. The way we are doing medicine now is from the 17th century, René Descartes, Frenchman, who said the head had nothing to do with the body. Well, and we're still practicing that medicine. That's bad medicine. Because we all know, if I tell you tomorrow that you've got to go and do an afternoon speech at number 10, Downing Street, here's the song, can you sing? Oh, do a couple of jokes, and yeah, you know, keep them going, just for half an hour. And I give you the scripts for tomorrow. Now, how are you going to feel? There's the microphone. How do you feel? Terrified. And all the rest, terrified? Everybody terrified?
But you get physical symptoms.
You get physical symptoms for this, and so what are you going to get? This is what I tell consultants all up and down the country. I've been telling consultants this. I get in on the NHS, I couldn't care less if they're listening, and I get into there and I tell them this, and I ask the doctor or the consultant, I say, tell them this. I said, how do you feel? They go, you've got to go to number 10 tomorrow, and Tony Blair needs a speech done, and do us a favour, doc, and I owe you one. That sort of thing, okay? So you ask the doctor. I ask the doctor, I say, how do you feel now? You looking forward to the talk? Can you sing? Oh, you're going to do your scales tonight? Are you ready with the joke? And of course, I asked them, how do they feel? And I said, nervous. They said, nervous. And I said, yes. And tomorrow morning, what's going to happen to you when you get up for breakfast? You're going to feel nervous? You're going to have breakfast? And they don't know what to say by then. And of course, they're going to get terrible intestinal trouble. They might get diarrhea. They're going in a terrible state, mind, body. And René Descartes said, you've got to treat that as a different entity to that. That's unbelievable medicine. But we have a war going on, and I'm not saying, I'm not rubbishing doctors at all, the surgeons, and there's a lot the medical profession do, but for the common things in life, like our migraines and our headaches and our pains and our tennis elbows and our tendinitis, that's all sortable. So I desperately believe that we are all on earth for a purpose, and I believe that we are on earth to help our fellow human beings in any way possible. Now, I tell some of these consultants about this, and some of them say, I understand, I know what you're talking about, we actually know this. You know, they all say this, but they've got mortgages to pay, you know, they're in it. They trained in one way, but they're actually very kind, and I lend them books and I lend them videos, and they'll all be very nice. But, you know, they've got to carry on, and they've learned in one way, and, you know, it is difficult, so I do understand.
It's more the pharmaceutical companies.
It's the pharmaceutical and the BMA. The BMA is pushing.
It's not the pharmaceutical, she said.
Oh, it's not.
No, I said it is.
It is.
I said it's the doctors think they're doing.
I know, but it's the doctors themselves that are trapped by the BMA. It's the BMA being pushed by the pharmaceutical companies. It's a catch-22. They're being pushed. The GPs can't care. They're all on targets. Everybody's on a target. You've got to sell so many depression tablets this month. Blah blah blah. Blah.
And they believe in what they're doing.
And they believe it.
Actually, they're indoctrinated into.
No, it's
Can
not
I
their
add
fault.
something important here?
Yes.
This is knowledge that everybody needs to know, and it's a universal problem. We all suppress emotion. It happens to all of us. It's human nature. And we all have mind-body conditions to a greater or lesser extent. This knowledge is really important, and it's the biggest blind spot, in my opinion, in the medical profession.
Well, to me, it's criminal.
So it's not just about being, if you've been abused as a
No,
child,
of
you're going
course
to have this.
But it does it stems from childhood.
The fact that the childhood stuff is important is because all we do is download without any discrimination.
Exactly.
Whatever happens, any experience. And it could be a very small experience, but if our reaction to it at the time is
Exactly.
big, then,
Depending how you
then
are.
that emotion will be big.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're doing it all the time, always repressing emotion through our life.
I know.
And
then you...
and all it's just going to add to what we call the pressure cooker
Exactly.
of the emotional
It's all stacked up, ready to go.
whole. So it's now been turned into a notion of stress illness. It's a bigger picture. It's all sorts of things building up. But anyway.
It's huge. It's so huge. I'm going to end now because you're all going to get bored otherwise. And I have a few role models in my mind. All my life I've had role models, and I think the people that come before us, we have a lot to learn from the people that come before us. And my role models are Gandhi. And I was on about changes before. Change is necessary. We all need change. We've got to go forward. We've got to go forward, not backwards. We don't want to get no more René Descartes in the 17th century practice. It's bad practice now. We've gone ahead. We know that. So Gandhi changed. Mother Teresa made changes. Martin Luther King made changes. And at the very top of my ladder is Abraham Lincoln, the very most famous president of all time. You might have seen the film lately. He made the biggest changes of all. And they all lost their lives for their cause. Now, for my little cause, I don't think anybody's going to bother about my life, but they laid down their lives for change, slavery. Imagine, he was so hot on slavery, and they lost their lives for it. So these are my role models in life. I don't care who's coming after me. I'm not going to go and knock on the pharmaceutical company's door. I'm just going to spread the word, and that's it really. And I thank you for your attention. I'll send you on your way. I hope I haven't bored you too long. Good night.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Thank you.